Compliments of the season and welcome to another edition of The Beam on Channels Television. I'm Victor Matthias. Now, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention this week said a new variant of the coronavirus has emerged in Nigeria, which is different from new strains discovered in Britain and South Africa. So today on the program, we will be taking a look at what the symptoms of the new variant are. Plus, we will also be looking at the safety of Nigeria's mobile and online banking systems. But before we get to that, let's see what made the trends in Nigeria's social cyberspace in the past week.
Nigerians are demanding justice for an 11-year-old boy who was allegedly sexually abused at Deeper Life Secondary School. Don Davis was molested by senior boys in his boarding school, and days ago, Don Davis's mother cried out on social media as she shared before and after photos of the boy as she accused the school of neglecting her son while he was very sick. His mother also claims that her life has been threatened since she went public with the story. Nigerians took to social media on Sunday to mourn the demise of popular motivational speaker Bon King, who reportedly died of an unknown cause on Saturday, the 26th of December 2020 in Lagos. The cauldron of emotion poured out on social media indicated how much he was loved by many as they bade him farewell at the age of 48. While describing him as a legend and a great man, some, however, claim that his death may not be unconnected with COVID-19.
Well, there you go. Those were the trends in the past week. Of course, I'd have to say not so palatable. But you can be a part of the conversation from wherever you're watching us around the world. Just tweet at us at Channels Beam, at Channels TV, at Victor_MBIDI. You can also use the hashtag ChannelsBeam as well as COVID-19 update. But joining us to look at today's topic, we have with us right here in the Lagos studio, Dr. Tade Ajao. He is a former one-day governor of Lagos State and a medical doctor based in Lagos. He is a writer and an avid observer of the COVID-19 global outbreak. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today. So, so much has been going on, so to speak now, with regards the outbreak of this pandemic, and new strains have been found almost everywhere around the world now. But what's the situation right here in Nigeria?
Well, the situation still still continues, from what we've been having as a background. There's new guidelines coming on. Following the closure or the stoppage of all the lockdowns that were, prescribed before. So we're having just like bars, restaurants, just, close down, and people being told to reduce, their
social activities.
Yeah, their social activities over this holiday.
Yeah. So so speaking of this new strain, what is it like?
Well, we'd have expected that there would be new strains of the coronavirus. It's maybe a little strange, it's coming up this late, because viruses, they tend to mutate and, come up with different forms as time goes on. So a new strain, would be expected to maybe be more aggressive, probably more contagious. So, if anything, I think that is the major worry. A new virus. The same virus, a new strain, most likely going to be,
a lot more aggressive than the previous one. But so, what should one be looking out for? With this new one.
Well, I believe it's good news that Moderna, Pfizer, they're coming up with new vaccines, and it may take a while before maybe these vaccines come down to Africa or to Nigeria. So I think for the time being, we really should just maybe switch back a bit, to what we had right before when the outbreak started, back in March. So we should be looking to, people individually should, pretty much prepare to wear their mask, take off their mask more often now, and continue to social distance.
Yeah, of course, the NCDC has also been talking about that, and, all of those measures that we should be putting in place. But one of the things that also has been a major concern or a problem is, how you people at the front line, kind of protect yourselves. We heard over the past week that about 20 doctors lost their lives. How has it been being in the front line? What more can be done, to protect doctors as well who are trying to save people who have contracted the virus?
I think, without a doubt, a major precaution would be getting the vaccines ready. Vaccines are already out in Europe, and a lot of American states are getting the vaccine. A lot of Americans, for now, there's a huge shortage, which is expected. And, a lot of people are just looking into the new year, saying, hopefully there'll be more vaccines and, a lot more people get vaccinated. But the priority should, frontline healthcare professionals should definitely, be top priority, because they will be, they are the ones who, meet with all kinds of patients. So I think, without a doubt, the government should look to, getting vaccines down to people in, the healthcare world who are in direct, who are expected to see, especially COVID-19 patients or, just general cases.
All right. So there's been what I say, a back and forth as to how the vaccines would be given when it eventually comes. Some are saying that it has to be tested, maybe because of the peculiarity of Nigeria and the regions. They're saying that maybe it has to be tested first to be sure that it is going to indeed be a cure to the virus. But how do you think we should go about it when it eventually comes?
Personally, I think the NCDC, has a major role to play as far as that's concerned. I think there's certainly a procedure to how vaccines are dispensed or circulated in the country. So you'd expect that there would be a particular guideline that would be followed, or maybe a new guideline that would be developed. I think that, for now, I think we have like 2 vaccines in circulation, possibly 3 by the end of the week, by the end of the year. I think AstraZeneca are coming up with their own vaccine, and that feels like good news. We have more options, so definitely maybe more available options to look at, to decide on which of the vaccines would eventually circulate in Nigeria. So I think first off, they have to decide which of the vaccines they're going to going up with, based on the studies that preceded these vaccines. But there are black people all over the world, so if black people are getting it in the U.S., they're getting it in the U.K.
And they're good.
They're good.
Yeah, they're good. But the climate is kind of different.
Yeah, climate, yeah, but the climate has maybe, I think, favored Africa.
Which is one of the arguments that was even out there when the virus broke. So it is believed that it doesn't do well under hot conditions. So if you have, for instance, as it is now, the northern part of the country will be cold. This part of the country is pretty much hot and humid. So if you look at those disparities, I mean, when this vaccine eventually comes, that's what people are looking at. How is it going to be done? How will it be? So if you bring in the conversation or the argument that black people in the U.S. and Europe, are getting this vaccine and they're still good, but the climate is kind of even different. So how do we bring all of this, to a compromise, to a round table, and to an agreement, so to speak, now, and as we give these vaccines when they eventually come?
Okay, I think without a doubt, a vaccine is a vaccine, irrespective of what time of the year it's given. When the region, all of that, I don't think it's is really so. It's really so much of a factor. So we're looking at. I think we should be more concerned about how many people get to have the vaccine, at what time they do. What set of people, what set of the population, top priority? I mean, in Europe, I'm aware that older people, the elderlies basically are the ones who are, getting vaccinated now. So, that factor, and maybe a couple other factors, would have to be, looked in before we, decide. When to start the vaccination, and there's this discrepancy with the level of outbreak, or the levels of outbreak, world over. Africa has pretty much had like a milder stroll, right, through this. So I think perhaps. There may be concerns, or there should be concerns, about whether people here in Africa are actually going to even, submit themselves for the vaccine, since most people didn't get it.
Yeah. So because when you said that it was kind of milder in Africa, I'm thinking, is it because even in Nigeria the testing per day wasn't really that much. We kept moving. From little numbers, we got to 1,000 tests a day, and all of that. Is that perhaps because we're not testing more? Is that why we're having lower numbers? As it is, Nigeria doesn't have up to 100,000 cases. Okay,
I think the major problem with the COVID-19 outbreak, was actually the number of deaths. The fatality rate, and. As far as I've as to the best of my knowledge, not a lot of fatalities have occurred in Nigeria. Nothing of that European scale. So, testing or not, you'd expect that maybe a certain region in Nigeria, a certain state, a certain town community would be experiencing, or would have experienced some major fatality, and we didn't see that. We're yet to see that. Really.
All right, let's just quickly get to our Abuja studio, where we have Dr. Adam Dawud. He is a public health physician, and he is also the case management facilitator at the Nigerian Center for Disease Control. Doctor, it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. So just...
very much, Matthias.
Indeed, you're welcome. So just before we just got to you, we're talking about the new strain of the virus. But so far, so good. What does the NCDC know?
Yes. At the level of NCDC, we are seeing rising number of cases, and the symptoms tend to be a little bit surprising. Most of the present cases do come up with anosmia, that's loss of smell. Then some, they will tell you they are not able to taste anything. And before you realize, some of them will start complaining of headache. Then the fever will now set in. And by the time they are tested, they become out positive. So we have also realized that our number of cases tend to be increasing. It's actually fluctuating. You see some rise after a day, another day you see it fluctuate downwards. But be as it may, all hands must be on deck to comply with the non-pharmaceutical preventive measures. We have to, as much as possible, to use face mask. Face mask gives about 99% prevention from you getting contact with the infected virus. And the new strain that we are seeing now for the COVID-19
Dr. Darwood
has high transmissibility.
Dr. Darwood, just before you hold your breath for a second, just before you start talking about the new strain, I would have to take a quick break, and when we return, of course, we'll get back to you so that you can conclude on that. Thank you for staying with us. We still have with us Dr. Darwood joining us from our Abuja studio talking about the new strain of the coronavirus. But just before we go back to Dr. Darwood, we earlier on had Dr. Tadia Jawo right here in the Lagos studio. And of course, I'd have to say thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts on this issue.
My pleasure.
Of course. Well, Dr. Darwood, you earlier on were talking about the new strain, its symptoms and all of that. Can you quickly conclude?
Yeah, thank you very much. As I said earlier, the new strain is nothing but it has actually undergone some mutation. And by so doing, it has increased some of its potentiality to actually become more virulent. And therefore, it has the high tendency of getting transmissible. It is easily transmitted, and symptoms tend to come up rapidly, unlike the first strain. And these mutants, they tend to be very wild, and that is why we realize that our number of cases tend to be increasing. So, at the NCDC level, it has been advised that public gathering should be reduced. The use of face mask is very, very important and helpful. More so, if you don't have anything to do, please stay at home. Restrict your movements, only if it is very necessary, so that you don't come across this virus and you become unnecessarily infected. If you are infected, by the time you come back to the house, you will infect your family. And the number of trains will now be increasing exponentially, and the burden will not be too much. So what is expected is all gatherings should be at a hold for now. Use of face masks is mandatory provided you are stepping out of your house. And the use of hand sanitizer is very important once in a while, provided you are outside your house. If you have running water and soap, use it to wash your hand. And try as much as possible to avoid physical contact with people. So social distancing and physical distancing should actually be encouraged. If you are on a queue, give distance. And by so doing, we'll be able to actually get hold of these virus ramifications.
All right, very much thank you there, Dr. Darwood, a public health physician, as well as the case management facilitator at the NCDC. It's a pleasure to have you on the program and have you share your thoughts with us.
Thank you.
Of course. Now let's switch gears. As you all know, the widespread use of unstructured supplementary service data, that's USSD, and the ongoing integration of BVN, NIN, and SIM have raised concerns among Nigerians over the safety and integrity of mobile internet and online banking systems in the country. Now, people are fearing that maybe their hard-earned money would be stolen by technically proficient fraudsters, and they're calling for more cybersecurity awareness in the country. And joining us to look at how one can maintain a very high level of security always online is Adedoyin Adedeji. He is the managing partner of Blue Rave Limited. an IT consultancy and project management agency based in Lagos. He is also a cybersecurity expert, and he joins us right here in our Lagos studio. It's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
So, of course, I'm sure you must have heard concerns by many Nigerians, with what is recently or with what is currently going on, the unification and bringing together of all of these data. People are scared already. There was a scare last week that Nigeria's NIMC database was hacked, but the ministry came out to say, oh, nothing of such happened. But I mean, we keep hearing about these things, and people just get paranoid. They get scared. What should we be doing at this point in time?
Well, I think first of all is I just want to commend the federal government for taking this step to start unifying our data points as a country. We've had a lot of fragmented data points. From NIMC to voters card to BVN to a driver's license. I mean, it's a whole lot. So I think at some point we would eventually have to get to this point where everything has to be unified. In the angle of security, one thing we have to understand is that because this data has to be unified doesn't mean that there will be threats to people's accounts, really. It's just majorly for identification. When you go to your bank, definitely, for example, for you to do transactions in your bank, there is a level of two-way authentication. Meaning, first of all, you have to log into your banking app or you have to log into your banking platform. Then most banks provide a token, which you can always use to perform transaction. And if you are using the USSD, usually there's always the USSD code. Okay, where the vulnerability lie really is if you lose your SIM card. Okay, so that's probably where you could probably fall victim. So, but if you don't give out your passwords to anybody and you don't give out your token, I mean, you don't carelessly take your token around or your ATM card, throw it around, I think largely you will be safe, even if they unify the data as we see. But I don't think people should really be too scared about it. They just need to be aware of some of the things they need to do to keep their bank accounts safe.
Yeah, so, and that's the thing, I mean, because unless it gets to that point where your SIM is missing, or when you walk around, like you said, carelessly with your token, or you perhaps misplace your card. I mean, so it pretty much boils down to the person.
Yes.
So as a person now, I mean, what more? Because apart from all of these things that you made mention of, apart from that, what else can I as an individual do to protect myself from these hackers? Okay,
one of the things I would recommend is, particularly for a lot of young people who take technology for granted too much, one thing I would encourage them to do is, number one, they should be aware of their online activities, what they do online, especially with their cards. Now, a number of times where they get vulnerable is you put your card anywhere online, okay? You're not sure, you just probably want to pay for anything online, you enter your card details online. So you need to be careful. And if you are doing online transaction, a way to save yourself is have like 2 accounts. One account, you can use it for online transactions, such that if you need to do online transaction, you can always transfer money to that account and use that card. But your card where you have majority of your money, that account, I wouldn't really encourage you to use it online. So you can have like 2, 3 accounts where one can just be dedicated for online transactions and all that.
Well, I hope every Nigerian has the capacity to open multiple accounts and then just maintain one for that online transaction. But I have to say thank you for sharing your thoughts on this, and hopefully no one gets hacked if he follows all of these tips. Adedoyin Adedeji, cybersecurity expert.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's where we are. Let's now take a look at the most viewed videos on our YouTube channel in the past week.
This week's top videos begins with a blast from the past as a tanker laden with fuel explodes on the Otedola Bridge in Lagos. It is followed by the NSAS protest that turned bloody in Edo State. Third, sees the abducted boys from Government Science Secondary School, Kankara, being reunited with their families. second is another blast from the past, this time a raid by the police in 2015, where cultists, rapists and kidnappers were apprehended. While in first is the meeting between President Muhammadu Buhari and the Kankara boys after they were freed by their abductors.
And that's the program this week. Thank you for watching. I'm Victor Matthias. Once again, compliments of the season.